Alright, so here's my little welder, which I'm going to be converting to a Euro torch connection. So first off, if you're going to attempt this, make sure you know what you're doing, because there is mains voltage inside here which could potentially kill you. The bits that I have brought, I will try to put links in the description to them. But the stuff that you're going to need is obviously the Euro torch connection there, which will fit on your welder. Also, you're going to need some electrical flex, because, well, if your welder hasn't got a gas solenoid inside it. This one's a rather expensive one from Italy. That was £20. I didn't really want to pay that much, but it was either this or wait 4 weeks from China for one for £10, so it's like double the price. Not too bad as long as it works. Some heat shrink to put over all the electrical connections, because obviously this here is 240 volts and we don't want to be touching this once we've got it all set up, because that wouldn't be nice. Also some connectors, some spade connectors, female and male. A couple of machine screws which I'm going to have to cut down, which will mount the solenoid. And then also on my welder, the front of this isn't flat, it's at a slight angle, so I'm going to have to make a plate up to fit the Euro connection into. So the thing that I'm going to do first is I'm going to be attaching the solenoid to make sure I can get that to work properly first. So at the moment I've got this switched on, so obviously if you've got your machine switched on, you've got to be really careful because of the voltage inside here. What I'm looking for is a place to attach the solenoid, so when you pull the trigger, the voltage goes from 0 to 240 volts to power the solenoid. So on here we've got the contactor down here, and you want to be very careful when you're playing with this, like I say. So I'm just going to, I found down here, so when I pull the trigger on the MIG torch, down here I get 240 volts across those two terminals. I'm just going to unplug the machine to make sure you unplug it when you're playing with it, because you really don't want to chance it. So first off I'm just going to strip this wire back basically and crimp some terminals on it, and I'm probably going to crimp the wires which are on here into the same terminals as well, so they're all together and it's all tidy, and then heat shrink everything to make sure it's safe and nobody can touch the terminals. It's also important to earth the solenoid as well. Okay, so stupid me, I bought the wrong connectors. I've done one already down here, and as you can see I've heat shrinked it right up to where the contact is, but what I've had to do is I've had to modify them into a fork connector. Probably not the best idea, but I haven't actually got any connectors like this, so yeah. So I'm putting quite a long bit of heat shrink on there so it will completely cover it, just in case for some unknown reason accidentally the wires do come out of this connector, but I did make sure they were firmly in there, and I did tug them before. So there you can see I've shrink that right down as far as I can get it, so then there'll be no metal showing. Now I've just got to put a ring connector on here and connect that to the earth of the chassis of the welder. Right, so now I'm just going to literally route this cable round here, down the back here, and then there's a little opening down in the bottom hand corner which I can shove the cable through. Right, so I'm just going to run some cable ties around the cables to make sure they're all secure and can't get pulled. So as you can see down here, we've got the earth connection down to the earth, and then the other two wires live, neutral there, and they're fully covered, so there's no chance of poking a finger in there. And then the wire's just coming around here, down the back there, just comes out down the bottom there, and then I'm going to fit the solenoid up here. Right, so I'm just going to try to mark up where I've got to drill the holes for the machine screws. What I'm going to do is try to hold the swarf back as use one of these magnets from a hard drive, which is quite powerful, so then hopefully the swarf will get pulled towards this rather than losing it inside the case. So there you go, it caught pretty much all the swarf, there's not too much in there. Okay, so I've got the solenoid fixed in place with two screws from the opposite side, and I've also just stripped the wires back on the cable, and I'm now going to put some crimps on and some heat shrink and connect this up. Okay, so I've got it all hooked up now, and I've verified that it's working. I've cable tied the cable down as best as I can, and it should all fit inside the case, and everything's heat shrinked up. So now to start the Euro conversion. Right, so I'm just going to disassemble all the torch lead and everything from here, and then get ready to fit the new metal bracket and the Euro connection. Right, okay, so I've got the wires here for the trigger, which I'm now going to cut. There's going to be plenty of wire left, so I can connect it to the new Euro connection. And now I should be able to pull the old torch lead out. And there we go, that's out. Right, so this is where I've got to so far. Here's the metal plate that I made. I just bent this in the vise and drilled a hole through it so the Euro torch can go through. I've mounted the Euro torch mount on here. The screw holes I elongated a bit, so that means there's a slight amount of adjustment in there, so when I put the Euro torch connection in I'll be able to line it up with the feeder properly. As you can see, that is pretty much well lined up, that is, so I shouldn't need to adjust it too much, and this is actually really solid. It's not going to be going anywhere. So I'm pretty happy with how it's come out so far. And now I've just got to mount the actual Euro connection. Right, so this here, the terminal which goes to the torch, the ring crimp on here is too small, so I need to put a larger one on there, and then that will go over this and clamp between these two washers here. So one thing I've had to do is where this little clamp is here, which clamped down on the liner, I had to, because this is the new liner which goes inside the Euro torch fitting, I had to get a piece of pipe which was the same diameter and heat it up and then melt it down a little bit so this would fit in there all the way. Right, so I've got the gas hose hooked up along the top here now, and I've just used a Jubilee clip on here. Not the best thing for that type of pipe, but it's the only thing I've got, so that'll have to do. I heated the actual pipe up because it's quite stiff, so I just quickly warmed it up with a hot air gun. So now all I've got to do is just hook the trigger wires up. It doesn't matter which way round they go because it's just a switch. Right, so the return or earth cable down here, what I'm going to do to this is I'm going to remove this cable and crop it off, and I'm going to install this DINS connector here. So that's out, and the DINS connector should be just the right size hopefully. So you've obviously got to make sure that this connection doesn't touch the case, so make sure you put it together properly. It goes through the panel like that, and this sandwiches on the other side. Okay, so it's all complete. So what I've done is I've pretty much hoovered everything out to make sure there's no metal chips in there or anything. And there you go. What I'm just going to do now is I'm going to use my multimeter on the continuity function, so we can check to make sure there's no connection between the terminals or the Euro torch connection up here, because you don't want any connections between the case and any of the parts you've put in, because if not, when you turn it on you're going to have a big problem. So I'm just going to hold this against the brass bit here, and first make sure I'm just going to touch up here this screw here, and then touch something that I know is definitely connected to the case. So there we go. Definitely know we've got connection up here to this screw, so we shouldn't have any connection between here and here. And then also down here the DINS connector that I installed on the front there, make sure I check that, and that's okay as well. So now I'm ready to put it back together and turn it on, and hopefully it works.